Nikita stared at the cold, flickering screen of his second phone, the one he never let Aline touch. Lines of code blurred in his tired eyes. 3 a.m. again, same hoodie, same silence. Just him and the quiet humming of a dream everyone around him had already buried. In the dimly lit kitchen behind him, Aline's voice cut through the stillness like glass. You know what's pathetic? She muttered, not even bothering to look at him. I could have had a life, a real one. If I didn't waste all these years on your maybe next year's startup fantasies. She stood in her silk robe, Versace, he noticed, clutching her coffee like it was the only warmth left in her. Her eyes were cold, calculating, the kind of look you give someone after you've already made your decision. You're a joke, Nikita. A broke joke. He had answered, is not yet. When she slammed the cup on the counter and stormed off, he slowly exhaled, a familiar rhythm now, the daily dance of disappointment. The irony was painful. She never realized that the silence wasn't weakness, it was construction. Blueprint by blueprint, hour by hour, he was building the world she'd never believe he could. But that night, something snapped. She had left her laptop open. It was tilted slightly toward him. Maybe she'd gotten careless. Maybe she didn't care anymore. At first, he didn't mean to look, but one message, just one, caught his eye. LOL. He still thinks I believe in his little future. It's sad, almost cute, but I'm so done pretending. There were screenshots, voice notes, emojis filled with cruel laughter, and at the center of it all, her, Aline, talking to someone named Ram. And not just talking, there was one photo she'd sent, a mirror selfie, lace lingerie he never saw. The caption under it, guess who's not sleeping next to a loser tonight? Nikita sat motionless for a full minute. Then, quietly, methodically, he copied everything, photos, chats, audio files, into a folder titled simply Project Zero. The name meant something, it always had. The starting point, the reckoning. He didn't say a word that night, not even when she kissed him on the cheek absentmindedly on her way to the bedroom. Instead, he turned back to his screen, adjusted his glasses, typed one more line of code, and whispered to himself what he wrote months ago in a letter pinned above his monitor. She laughs today, you decide who laughs tomorrow. Outside, the city slept, but inside a dim co-working space across town, one with peeling paint and bad coffee, something powerful was awakening. The next morning, Nikita was gone before the sun rose. He didn't leave a note, just a half-empty bowl in the sink and the scent of burnt instant coffee. Aline wouldn't notice. Not really. She never asked where he went anymore. As long as the rent got paid and her lifestyle wasn't interrupted, she didn't care. Nikita slipped into the cinder block garage he had converted into a makeshift workspace. One desk, 2 monitors, a worn-out office chair with a broken wheel. But in that cramped, freezing room, he had everything he needed. Time, silence, and a reason. The betrayal had stripped him down to the bone, and from that raw place, he began to build. He wasn't sleeping much. 5 hours on a good night. Most evenings he crashed on the narrow couch shoved behind a stack of Ethernet cables. There were nights he couldn't even remember falling asleep, only waking up with keyboard imprints on his cheek, lines of unfinished code blinking on the screen. But he kept moving. He didn't tell anyone, not the few friends who still checked in, not his parents who had stopped asking when he'd get a real job. He only opened up to his app, the one he was building, line by line like it was a confession booth no one could hack. The project started taking shape faster than he expected. His platform, once a half-baked prototype, evolved into something elegant, streamlined, scalable, an AI-powered pound system to help remote teams function more efficiently, task allocation, time management, and analytics all in one. With mass layoffs and remote work chaos gripping the market, suddenly it was relevant. Still, no one knew. When the email from Gridline Ventures landed in his inbox, subject line, "Let's talk." He stared at it for 5 minutes before clicking. They had found his GitHub repo through a Reddit thread. A junior associate. They liked his work. Wanted to talk terms. He didn't tell Aline. She still thought he spent his nights gaming or doom-scrolling forums. She hadn't asked why his second phone was always face down, or why he flinched when she reached for it. When the video call came, Nikita dressed in his usual hoodie and didn't bother with the virtual background. The venture firm didn't seem to mind. In fact, they respected it. You've built something real, one of the partners said. You didn't polish the pitch. You polished the product. They wired the first tranche of funds that week. He upgraded his setup, not the garage, but the software. Hired a freelance designer, brought in a back-end specialist he'd met at a tech meetup 6 months prior, paid them well, quietly through a shell company so nothing could be traced. Aline didn't notice that he stopped using her Wi-Fi or that he spent more nights at the co-working space, a vague excuse that had become his shield. She was too busy taking late-night calls in the bathroom and deleting messages off her laptop, still playing her game. Nikita let her. Every insult she had thrown, every time she mocked his quiet obsession, He remembered it all, not with bitterness, but precision, like a file stored for later access. He was no longer trying to prove anything to her. That phase was over. This wasn't about validation. It was about positioning because she thought he was still beneath her because she didn't know he was about to stand where she could no longer reach him. The silence wasn't for her comfort. It was the calm before the unveiling. And when the light hit his name on that homepage, when the funding rounds went public, the silence would break. But for now, Hikoda, the headlines didn't scream his name, not yet, but the logo, his logo was there, minimalist, clean, just like he envisioned it in his sleep-deprived mind months ago. Somebody said, Zendesklo secures $1.20 and pre-seed to reinvent remote productivity. Tech blogs picked it up, slowly at first, small mentions, niche threads, a single tweet that caught fire overnight. This guy bootstrapped a brilliant remote ops tool, slept in his garage, got funded. Respect. It wasn't viral, it was surgical. A ripple, not a splash. Just how Nikita wanted it. At the heart of it all, he remained invisible. He didn't post on LinkedIn, didn't retweet the articles, didn't even update his bio. Investors knew, his small team knew, a few insiders in the startup circle nodded in quiet approval. But to the outside world, and more importantly to Aline, he was still just Nikita, still the hoodie-wearing guy who couldn't afford to replace a broken kettle, still the ghost she barely acknowledged. And she had no idea the ground beneath her heels was shifting. He moved into a private office in a shared loft downtown, exposed brick, tall windows, espresso on tap. There was something poetic about designing systems of clarity in a space that once smelled like engine oil. He let the irony sit. His developer, Danya, came in twice a week. Sharp kid, 25, burnt out from big tech, hungry to build. They worked in focused bursts, speaking in shorthand only product people understand. The designer, Mira, operated remotely from Berlin. Another paradox Aline would never appreciate, a globally distributed team, creating tools to make distributed work human. Each week brought new traction. One startup after another signed up for the beta. Word spread in Slack communities. Someone made a YouTube breakdown. Productivity nerds debated it on forums. A recruiter messaged Nikita, any chance you're open to acquisition talks? He ignored it. He wasn't building to sell. He was building to arrive. And still, Aline lived like she was preparing for someone else's future. She started dressing differently, more luxury, less substance. Dinner conversations were even shorter now, often one-sided monologues about how difficult it is to find real men. She complained about flaky dates, fake flexers, and how men with real money don't waste time building things. They just have it. Nikita nodded, took another bite of microwave leftovers. She still didn't know that her world would soon collide with the one she thought beneath her. One Thursday evening, he received an email. Subject line invitation, Founders Circle private dinner hosted by Roman Leontiev. It was from a shared angel syndicate. Standard stuff, nothing flashy, just a chance to rub shoulders with people who get it. He almost declined until he saw the name, Roman. Alain's Roman. He remembered the chats, the safe screenshots. He RSVP'd, looking forward to it. The night of the dinner, he wore something different. Still simple, no labels, but the kind of simplicity that made people wonder if he was someone they should know. Fitted black shirt, minimalist jacket, tailored jeans, clean sneakers. Subtle, intentional. The venue was a rooftop lounge above a boutique hotel. String lights, panoramic views, quiet jazz in the background. Nikita arrived 5 minutes early, just enough time to scan the room, absorb the energy, spot exits. Not from paranoia, but preparation. Roman arrived fashionably late. He made a show of greeting everyone, charming, loud, the kind of man who practiced his charisma in the mirror. Beside him was Aline, draped in white, face polished, movements calculated. She hadn't seen Nikita yet. Why would she? She didn't expect to find the nothing husband in a room full of somebodies. It wasn't until Roman reached Nikita's table that her eyes froze. Nikita looked up, calm, extended his hand. Roman, right? Nikita, founder of Zendesklo. Roman blinked. Wait, you're? Yeah, Nikita said with a slow smile. That guy with the hoodie in the future nobody believed in. Aline's face drained of color. There was no need to say more. Not here, not yet. The rest of the dinner passed in slow motion. Roman tried to charm Nikita. Too late. Aline remained unnaturally quiet, drinking more than usual, eyes darting between the two men. Nikita listened, responded, laughed when appropriate, but behind his smile, he was calculating. He had come here to boast. He came to plant a seed. The real move would come later. Back in the loft, Nikita opened his old notebook, flipped past the early sketches, past the get out plan, landed on a single page. Public collapse requires private preparation. He smiled. Tomorrow he'd send the invites. Private screening, limited guests. casual dinner, product retrospective, the invite would say. He'd booked the same restaurant Aline once said she wished Roman would take her to. The projector would be ready, the screenshots would be cued, the final nail polished. Not out of cruelty, out of precision, because the best revenge is never a raised voice. It's clarity, timed perfectly. The room smelled of ambition. Glass walls, soft jazz, and rows of flickering candles lit the private dining area in the heart of the city's most exclusive restaurant. A space designed for power, secrets, and spectacle. Nikita arrived early, not to prepare. Everything had been ready for hours. He came early because calm was his armor now. He ordered black coffee, no cream, no sugar, and took in the view. The skyline shimmered against the darkening sky, the city pulsing below like a restless heart. At 7:10 p.m., the guests began to arrive. Investors, a few startup founders, tech influencers with polished smiles and shiny shoes, people who barely glanced at Nikita a year ago, now eager to shake his hand. He welcomed them politely, let their flattery roll off him like water on steel. And then at 7:26 p.m. came Roman, wearing a navy blazer with a pocket square that screamed money, followed, as Nikita expected, by Aline wrapped in a red silk dress that hugged her desperation a little too tightly. Her smile faltered the second their eyes met. Didn't expect to see you hosting, she murmured, not quite meeting his gaze. Nikita smiled warmly. Oh? Well, you're exactly who I was expecting. He pulled out a chair for her casually, like a host seating an uninvited guest he'd planned the entire evening around. Roman, unaware of the minefield he'd stepped into, offered a half laugh and clapped Nikita on the back. You clean up nice, man. Didn't know coaches did dinner parties now. Nikita chuckled. It's not just a dinner, it's a retrospect. Roman raised a brow. Of what? The truth. The meal began. Small plates, scattered conversation. Nikita let the tension stretch, gently pushing it to the edge. He was surgical, letting Roman boast about his latest investments, letting Aline nod like she understood what term sheets meant. Then, just as dessert was served, a citrus mousse with gold-dusted raspberries. Nikita stood. Before we wrap, I wanted to share a short presentation, something personal, a look back. The lights dimmed. A portable projector on the side table buzzed softly to life. The screen illuminated against the far wall, sleek, corporate, clean. Slide 1, building under pressure, a year in shadows. Some guests murmured in curiosity. Slide 2, a time lapse of Nikita's startup journey, clips of code, pitch decks, screenshots of user growth, authentic, inspiring. Slide 3, the twist. It began with a blurred chat log, laughter, then a voice message transcribed on screen. He's still stuck in that garage. I just pretend to care. Rom says I won't have to fake it much longer. Lee's voice. Roman shifted in his seat. Slide 4, a full screen image, a line, mirror selfie, lingerie, captioned, guess who's not sleeping next to a loser tonight? The room fell into an electric hush. Aline froze. Roman turned to her slowly, the blood draining from his face. Slide 5, a compilation, dozens of messages, DMs, voice notes, secret chats, lined up like dominoes. No narration, no commentary, just raw, ugly clarity. Aline shot to her feet. Turn it off. You're sick, Nikita. Nikita didn't move. He simply raised a hand. Ladies and gentlemen, let's pause here. You've seen the pitch, but what you're really seeing is product market misalignment. He gestured toward Aline. She wanted a finished product, but she judged the beta version. Soft laughter, some awkward, some incredulous. Nikita's voice lowered. You were right, Aline. I wasn't enough for you back then. But the thing about startups, you don't invest based on what they are. You invest based on what they can become. He turned to Roman. And you were just around a bad funding, flashy, short-limbed, and frankly, overvalued. Roman stood red-faced. You little, careful, Nikita cut in calmly. This room's full of people who actually matter now, the ones you wanted to impress. Silence again. Aline, trembling, reached for her purse, muttered something unintelligible, and rushed out. Roman followed, barking something about defamation and lawsuits. No one followed them. The projector screen dimmed. Nikita exhaled slowly, turned back to the room. Now that we've cleared the air, let's talk about the next version of Zen Desk Flow. Polite chuckles, a few nods, and then applause. One investor raised his glass. To clean exits, he said. Nikita toasted back, the weight in his chest finally lifting. That night, he didn't go back to the garage or the old apartment. He stepped into his new place, minimal, high-ceilinged, peaceful. He poured himself a glass of water, sat by the window, and opened his laptop. An unread email blinked at the top of his inbox. Subject expansion proposal. San Francisco office. He smiled, not because of revenge, but because clarity is the cleanest form of closure. The message was short. We'd love to discuss scaling options. Are you available next week for a call? It came from a major West Coast venture group, one Nikita once idolized from afar. Now they were reaching out to him. He didn't reply immediately. Instead, he looked out the wide pane window of his new apartment, coffee in hand, the early morning fog curling along the skyline like a secret. The apartment was nothing like the one he used to share with Aline. No mirrored closets, no fake decor, just clean lines, silence, and intention. Everything in this space had been chosen by him, for him. On the table beside his laptop sat a leather bound notebook, the same one he'd used during his hardest days. Between warm pages were reminders he used to survive, scrawled in ink and coffee stains. Keep your head down, keep your bill clean, let the silence do the heavy lifting. That silence had carried him here. It had been 2 weeks since the presentation night. He hadn't seen Aline since. She'd tried to call once, left a voicemail, apologies wrapped in half truths. He never listened to the full message. He didn't need to. The past didn't own him anymore. It merely confirmed his direction. There was no viral clip, no tweet thread. He didn't post about it, didn't gloat. The people who needed to know already knew. The rest, they would simply see result. He wasn't chasing revenge anymore. He was chasing range. Each morning began the same way. Now, no chaos, no second phone, just one number, one calendar, one live. He walked to his office down the block, waved to the cafe owner who now knew his order, and worked with a team that believed in the mission because they believed in how it was built. Zendesk Flow was gaining momentum fast. HR teams, remote startups, even corporate departments piloting the system. And with every new sign up, Nikita felt a quiet reaffirmation echo inside him. He hadn't just proven something to Aline, he had reclaimed himself. Late one evening, as he reviewed usage metrics on the platform, a soft chime pulled his attention. A LinkedIn message, not from an investor, not from the press. It was from a UX researcher named Alina. She wrote, "Hi, Nikita, I stumbled across your tool while researching intuitive platforms for async teams. Just want to say it's brilliant. You created something both powerful and strangely calming. Would love to chat sometime. No pressure. Just curiosity." Nikita stared out the message from him. No hidden agenda, no flattery, just genuine interest. He smiled, not for effect, but because something inside him had softened. The edges weren't jagged anymore. They were sharpened, yes, but clean. He wrote back, "Hey, Lena, appreciate the kind words. Would love to chat. I built it during a strange season of my life. Glad it resonates." And he didn't know where that conversation would go. Maybe nowhere, maybe somewhere. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't chasing. He was choosing. Outside, the city glowed. Inside, a man sat in quiet control of a future that was once doubted, dismissed, and disregarded. And somewhere far from the noise, someone else whispered his name in a room full of people who finally had to admit they underestimated the wrong man.